Welcome. I'm so glad you're here for the Caregiver Solution Info Show. We have another wonderful program for you tonight. This show is for family caregivers, people who care for other people who can't care for themselves for various reasons. But we focus on people that are caring for someone that has some form of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, some other form of dementia may be caused by a brain infection, even Parkinson's disease or vascular, like with heart attacks and things like that. And so we are here for you, the caregiver, and we've been here for you for the last 6 years, and we are so proud to have this opportunity to come to you in your own home, on your computer, on your cell phone, on iHeartRadio, and on local AM and FM South Florida radio to bring this new platform to you. Now, caregivers, they are born new every day because we never exactly plan to be a caregiver. Sometimes it's something that's just thrown on us at the last minute. Sometimes it's progressive and we, get a little bit of time in, and then all of a sudden we're spending more time, and then we're a full-time caregiver. And so it's really hard to be a caregiver. It's one of the hardest things that a person will ever do. And so this show brings you lots of different experts from all kinds of professional fields to give you the information you need, whether it's for yourself as a caregiver or whether it's for the person that you care for. So today we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people worry about when it comes to caregiving, and that's money. Now, money is something we all need, right? But we don't expect to have to spend money down the road necessarily on someone's care long term. And so we're going to be talking today about how to plan long term, how to plan if you haven't been planning long term and you find yourself in a situation where you're going to need some help and some funds to care for someone. It's a touchy subject, but it's one of those subjects that has to be addressed when you are caring for another person. How is this person going to be cared for? Are they going to stay at home? Are they going to be in assisted living? Are they going to be in a nursing home? And how much does that cost? And who pays for that? Where do the funds come from? Is it Medicaid? Is it Medicare? Is it my Social Security? Is it long-term care insurance? Or am I going to go broke trying to care for somebody? So these are questions everybody asks, and everybody needs to know the answers. And so today we have an expert in the field joining us who's going to be talking about all of this and more. He's been working with seniors for over 30 years. He understands the senior industry. He understands the caregiving industry. Not only is he a professional, but he also is in a position of being a family caregiver, and he'll tell his story to us also while we're on today. And I'm so thrilled to have with me Paul Solomon. He's a certified senior advisor with Lou Who, and he is here in the studio. Hi, Paul. Nice to see you.
Hi, Marcia. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited that you're here. You have a lot of experience in this industry, a lot of experience with seniors, and you have a lot of letters after your name. PA, GRI, SPES, CSA. Can you please let us know what those mean and what it means to us so we can see what your credentials are?
Sure. Paul Solomon, PA, is my professional designation that I have as a corporation. So that's the PA end of it. GRI is under my real estate broker's license because I'm a real estate broker. It's kind of a graduate degree beyond just being a broker, but it's a designation that you get from a Graduate Realtor Institute. After that is SRES, which stands for Senior Real Estate Specialist. Again, in the senior over 55 community, there's a designation of which I specialize in. And then one that I received last year was a Certified Senior Advisor. That's kind of putting everything that I've done over the last 15 years under kind of the roof of touching, whether it's real estate. I'm also a licensed insurance agent for long-term care. I'm also a licensed assisted living administrator. I received that in the last couple of years. So everything I've done is really cater to the seniors based on starting about 15 years ago with my own parents. And that's kind of how I got into the business, where a lot of people that are involved in the senior world is because they've had to deal with either their parent or grandparent, either didn't like the care, had to find a solution themselves, and then said, you know what, I think I could do it better. And really myself is I kind of reached out in the beginning to try and find the answers. And again, there's so much misinformation out there. Even today, there's so much misinformation out there. And education became a big part of what I do.
Well, that's amazing, and congratulations on all those designations.
Thank you.
It proves that we have experts here in our show, and you certainly have a lot of experience, and you have the knowledge to go with it. So I'm excited to hear what you're going to tell us today.
It all started with my parents. My dad started showing signs of dementia when the stock market crashed 2008 and 2009. He kind of handed the portfolio over to my mom, and my mom had no experience taking over, but he realized that there was no way that he could handle their finances anymore. And at that point, my mom called me and said, help. She didn't know where to turn to. There really wasn't a professional within that my dad can really turn to. And my mom said, maybe you can help us. And I spent a day, a Saturday like it was yesterday. My mom kept unbelievable records. She recorded everything except that she had no idea what she was looking at. And it all started with her long-term care policy. She didn't even know she had one. And I didn't know she had one. And she said, you know, I almost stopped paying this. And I said, you know, this is the first bill you have to pay every month. This is so important. You'll realize as you get older that we need that. And unfortunately, my dad did not have one. He's really has been unhealthy for most of his life. And we had to figure out, okay, where are we going to turn to? Because we knew how expensive things were going to turn.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Paul. You mentioned your dad back in 2008 started showing some signs of dementia. What was, did you notice anything before he said, here, take this over, I can't handle this? Did you guys see telltale signs?
I mean, I did personally, just because of all the networking and, you know, how we've met each other in the past with all the lunch and learns and things like that within our industry. I saw signs happening, and my mom was in total denial, which is typical of what happens to the spouse. They kind of cover for the other one. They make excuses for them.
Absolutely.
And they were doing it all the time. We would go as simple as going out to dinner, handing my dad a menu, and he would end up saying, well, whatever she's having, because he either couldn't read the menu, couldn't make up his mind anymore, and it was an easy out to keep going to whatever my mom said. And so I kept seeing that.
Did your mom recognize it, or did she say anything that she thought he was being different?
No, she just thought he was being cute, or just saying, you know, oh yeah, that's him just trying to be funny and not wanting to make those decisions anymore. But I saw it slowly happening.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, it was a slow-moving dementia. My mom wouldn't let me get him tested. We couldn't.
She wouldn't let you?
No.
And
we
you tried. How did?
I tried multiple times making appointments with different doctors, and we would make the appointment, and then a day before said, no, you know what, he's having a good day. We don't need to go.
I'm so glad you're sharing this story, your personal story, because this is typical of a lot of families, and especially adult children as yourself, trying to help your family, trying to get through to them. And not that you at that point knew everything, but you knew enough that,
Right.
you know, hey, we got to get some answers here. And you kind of kept running into a brick wall, didn't you?
Every time I wanted to do something for them, my mom kept, you know, either agreeing to it for that moment and then changing her mind, saying, you know what, he's having a good day. I said, okay, but there's going to be another bad day. I mean, I just knew what was coming right after that. And she said, no, let's see what happens. And then, you know, sundowning started, so his hours started getting flipped. He started imagining things, hallucinating things. He never got physical, because that would have been the end of me letting my mom make those decisions. Unfortunately, and I don't know if you know this story even, but I knew something bad was going to happen, and I had to let it happen, unfortunately, even though I knew better. but my mom wouldn't let me help her.
So you knew a crisis was coming, but you couldn't do anything to avoid it.
Couldn't do anything to avoid
Your
it.
hands were tied.
I knew, essentially, my dad was a wanderer, so my dad would leave the house. So I said, all right, let me change the locks. Let me make a higher lock that he couldn't reach or didn't know was there. Let me get a GPS band that the Alzheimer's Association offers.
Right.
They wouldn't let me get that for him. So I had to kind of wait it out, and unfortunately I did. And I got that call that afternoon. My mom hurt herself that evening in the shower, and my dad kind of knew what was going on, and he says, I'm leaving. And they got into an argument, and he walked out the door at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. My mom waited because she thought he would come back. It was 2 hours later. She called me, and he didn't come back. And they live in a gated community in West Palm Beach, and she called me and said, you have to come look for him. So we called security. They went out to look for him, and they couldn't find him. So by the time I got up there a half hour, 45 minutes later, we then called Palm Beach Sheriff's Office. They were unbelievable. They came out in full force. Helicopters, dogs. They came out with drones to look for him, and they stayed until midnight. We couldn't find him.
Wow.
They did a silver alert, even though it wasn't a car, but they had a silver alert out for him on TV, the 11 o'clock news.
Wow.
Nothing. They stopped the search at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, said, we'll be back in the morning. 9 o'clock, they came back in the morning. It took them till 1 o'clock where they finally found him maybe 1,000 to 1,500 feet away, lying on the side of a canal behind a building. We had no idea where he was all night. At that point, he was out of it. And that was kind of, unfortunately, the beginning. He was alive, but that was the beginning of the end, of which I knew I could have avoided it, but I couldn't.
Right.
My hands were tied, and he lasted for about a year and a couple months. And it was just, for that next year and a half, it was all on me. You know?
Because at that point, your mom finally realized, after this episode where he was gone like 24 hours, that she should have listened to you, and she
Correct.
needed to do something because this was obviously a crisis situation, and it probably scared her to death. And so she was obviously at this point now beside herself and said, okay, Paul, you handle it, because you've been trying to do it for years and we wouldn't let you.
I don't even think I let her say, you handle it. I think I said, all right, now it's my time. And right away, my dad had to go into a rehab. At that time, I knew my mom couldn't live alone by herself. So I had to find an assisted living that had memory care for my dad, and then another an assisted living side for my mom. So they had to live separately. So now we're getting into the cost factor. All right. I knew that they had their house that they had. So I had to prepare their house, had to empty the house out. I had to go sell their house. And then I had to keep planning. And like a lot of other families out there that I've come across, whether you have siblings like I do, it always falls onto one person.
Yeah, mostly.
And that was me. Thankfully, I knew what I was doing. I'm in the business. I have the contacts and was able to do everything I needed to do. But it's still between having adult children, myself, that I had to deal with, in their late teens or early 20s, dealing with them, and then dealing with parents stuck in that sandwich generation, and working. And it all fell on myself and my wife, who's helped me, hand in hand along the way. But now having to deal with the rehabs, dealing with social workers, dealing with hospitals, in and out my dad was, being over-medicated, being the advocate for my dad, trying to get my mom to understand what's going on, taking away the car, I had to deal with that, and then dealing with their finances, because once you get going, it just starts snowballing.
I'm already
Yeah, believe me,
overwhelmed listening to you.
And it hasn't ended yet. I mean, unfortunately, my dad did last about a year and a half, went through the nursing home, passed away, and then now COVID hit, and my mom deteriorated because we couldn't see my mom. So that happened over the course of a year and a half. My mom turned 93, and now she's in memory care herself.
Oh, man.
Doing a lot. And again, as people will understand, dementia hits differently to different people. So where my dad was quiet and he was easy to deal with, ended up losing the ability to walk. So he was easy to handle, where my mom, totally a maniac. The medication has to be adjusted all the time, and she's just bound. She used to be a quiet little old lady per se, and she's just a terror. and hallucinating, doing all the things, confused, not, depending if when I walk in, she knows I belong to her, not sure if I'm a son, grandson, great grandson, her brother, her father, her husband. Every time I walk in, it's a different situation.
Wow.
So the quality of life, obviously, she's in a good place. She's clean. The assisted living, memory care is a good place for her now. But again, I had to move her a couple times during COVID to get the right situation, just because the other places just wasn't the right situation.
All right, I need a medal or something to pin on you because, first of all, I want to say I'm sorry for the loss of your dad,
Thank
and that
you.
was a really tragic thing that you had to go through. And now dealing with your mom and through COVID and the memory loss now with her, I think that all these designations that you have after your name, I think you got them all just by living your family life and doing all these things for them. And then you finally went and, got the official certification because
Right.
you lived it. You
Right.
really did live every single thing that, we're going to be talking today about. Senior advisors, you advise in all aspects of senior life. And you've been there, you've done it, you've walked in the shoes.
Yeah.
And so this is like unbelievable. And so people don't know what they don't know.
Correct.
And, for you to have that experience and personal experience and then be able to apply that helping other seniors in similar situations is invaluable.
Yeah, I mean, and I was just like a lot of my clients where, you don't deal with your family's assets. Your parents usually are keeping everything, hush hush. They don't want you to know until something happens. And either they're running out of money or things happen, and then all of a sudden they say, well, we don't have those assets. We don't have money for that. And that's the biggest issue that I come across with a lot of my clients is, to get, and it's usually the father more than the mother, to agree to tell the adult children what they have, as opposed to the saying that the senior has is, you'll know when I die. When I die, you'll have everything
And
in
that
your
might
name.
be too late for lots of reasons. And
Yeah.
so that brings us back to you being a certified senior advisor. What credentials, that you have that qualifies you to be all of this and more? I mean, you're certified. So there are a lot of different advisors.
Right.
There's individual people who do different kinds of advising.
Right.
There's different people who do planning. There's different people who do lots of different things. But it sounds like you're kind of like one-stop shop, that you have it all together.
I am. I like to, the biggest thing would be like being a quarterback. Okay. So yes, I'm licensed in real estate, so I understand the real estate aspect of it. And there's a lot to go with that. Even the estate planning, dealing with the deed of a house, dealing if the family needs care and their assets, their house is their biggest asset, how to pull money out of the house, whether reverse mortgage is the right situation or not. A lot of people don't understand that. I'm pretty fluid on that situation. I've used that in planning. So I bring in a mortgage broker that handles that. Now we're taking the assets and what to do with the assets. So now either I have their financial advisor I speak to and say, okay, you love your financial advisor, great. Now let's generate more income because of the expenses that are coming in.
So you work with all the different disciplines, so to speak, in
Correct.
all the different areas, and you're sort of keeping it all together. You're like like you said, the quarterback of the team, and all
Right.
these other people are on the team to help the family.
Right.
And so you bring them in as needed so they can use their expertise to solve the situation.
Yeah, I mean, even something as an accountant or CPA that's never dealt with really dealing with the senior world and understanding Medicaid and understanding the planning aspect of it, where they're saying, do this with your assets, give away as much as you can, give away each year to kind of spend down that money. And I'm saying, no, don't do that. Florida has its own set of rules that are different than any other state. Every state has different rules for Medicaid planning. And when the adult children in New York, New Jersey, Chicago, California, and they're Googling Medicaid and their planning aspect of it, well, there's things in Florida that we can do that you can't do in any other state. And if they're older CPA, older attorney, or from other states, they don't understand the rules. So I'm on the phone with them explaining what needs to be done here to try and protect the assets as much as possible to make sure they don't outlive their income that they have, and try and plan accordingly, taking, again, their real estate, their life insurance policy that might have cash value in it, their long-term care policy. Does it cover home care? Does it cover assisted living? Is it just for nursing homes? Because that plan 20, 25 years ago was sold differently.
Yes.
That people don't understand.
Right.
I'll bring in a specialist that knows assisted livings, even though I've probably been in most of them here in the area. Their job is to have the right placement for the people, whether it's activities, whether it's dementia related. So I bring in somebody that knows that better than I do, but at least I know, between experience and being in them all, how that all works. Geriatric care manager, I think they're invaluable. People don't really understand what a geriatric care manager does, but to have an advocate, whether it's in the hospital setting, in an assisted living or nursing home setting, is unbelievable, because now they're the eyes and the ears, especially people that are not in the area.
Correct.
And I saw the experience again with myself, where my dad was in the hospital, and a social worker walks up to my sister and starts explaining things to my sister, and my sister then turns around to me and says, well, maybe we should do this or that. And I said, okay. And before I can say anything, my wife says, you know what? Paul has us under control. I appreciate what they just told you. Some of it's true, some of it's not true, but they don't understand the dynamics of what mom and dad have and what we need to do.
And how everything works together.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not just one thing, it's the whole picture, and that's what you are there to figure it all out.
Right. So again, I mean, a lot of people have a lot of little information. Some of it's right, some of it's old and wrong information. I'm trying to put that all together and work with the family and everybody that's within the family that they already trust and know. And here I come into the family just trying to say, okay, yes, that's true. No, that's not true. Yes, you can do that. No, you can't do that. How about this idea? And it's amazing. I mean, again, Google is good and bad.
Yeah.
You know, just with any, like we know with anything, it's the first, I go there myself just to try and get the basic information, but there isn't a page on Google that has just the rules on pertaining to Florida. So whether it's Medicaid, even VA planning. I mean, I used to do applications for VA
Yes,
planning.
I remember you did, yeah.
Right, but that got kind of complicated, and Medicaid really is the better benefit, even though the veterans deserve everything they deserve plus a million times more. Unfortunately, the VA doesn't make it easy. And when I can get benefits for families through Medicaid a lot easier, quicker, sooner, and protect their assets easier than VA benefits, I said, listen, you don't understand, so we have to look this way.
Yeah.
I understand you want to get this benefit that you owed for being in service, and thank you, but
you might be able to get more of this other route.
and protect your assets better.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, the education that you provide, it's almost like having a second opinion too, because, you know, everybody's got their opinion, but they all have different agendas with different goals.
Right.
And so you're kind of getting everybody on the same page with what needs to be done, and doing it, you know, in the most beneficial way for that family.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that you just can't, you know, you can't ignore that, really, because people would do things that they think are right with the best intentions,
Right.
but unknowingly they could actually be messing something up big time,
Right.
you know, by selling the house or doing something that, you know, they think, or putting it in somebody else's name. And so it really, people really do need to be educated. This is all wonderful information, and we're going to go into a lot more in detail with Paul. You know, the overview is just incredible. Your family story is just blows me away. And like I said, you're not only a good guy, a great professional, but, you know, you're a wonderful son too.
Thank you.
Evidenced by, you know, what you've done for your family and now you're doing for others. So we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be giving away a free book. It's called The 36-Hour Day. It's a wonderful book. If you don't have it, you'll want to have a piece of paper and pencil ready to take down how you can get this free book today. So stay with us. We'll be back with more from Paul Solomon, Certified Senior Advisor.
Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Hi, we're back, and at this time, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Community. Arden Courts is a memory care assisted living, and they have about 50 communities across the United States, 10 of them right here in the state of Florida. Arden Courts is an advocate for you. They take care of loved ones with memory loss, but they also help you, the family caregiver, with lots of resources. And today they'd like to offer you this resource. It's called the 36-Hour Day Book. It's a wonderful resource for family caregivers. It explains lots of different things that you will need to know on your caregiving journey. It has explanations, definitions, scenarios, tips, lots of different resources within this one resource itself. If you would like to get this book, and it's absolutely free, all you have to do is send an email giving your name, address, and telephone number, and send that email to delray@arden-courts.com. Again, that's DELRAY, Delray at Arden, ARDEN, courts, COURTS.com. Tell them that you heard about the free offer of the 36-Hour Day Book on the Caregiver Solution Info Show, and they'll be happy to send this book directly to you. It will be a wonderful resource for you and your family, and so don't hesitate, do it today. So I'm so excited today to have my special friend and professional senior advisor. Paul Solomon is a certified senior advisor. He's had over 30 years experience working with seniors in various fields, and he's here today to talk about money. And, you know, who doesn't want to talk about money? It's hard, families trying to figure out money, Paul, when they have to look at what it's going to cost to care for somebody who can't work anymore. Maybe they haven't saved a lot of money for their retirement, let alone for extra costs that they never anticipated. So you are very well versed on long-term care. We mentioned that in the beginning of the show. So a lot of people don't even know what long-term care insurance is. And yes, it has changed very much over the years. Right. And people think that, well, if they do have it, it's going to cover everything. So let's talk a little bit about long-term care insurance, what it is, what it covers, what it might not cover, and some of the pros and cons about that.
Okay, so long-term care, a lot of people think, whether it's the adult children and or the seniors themselves, that Medicare covers long-term care. So people have to understand that Medicare is really health insurance for the seniors. So when everybody turns 65, they can turn to Medicare to be their health insurance. Also for a hospitalization. So, but it doesn't cover if you need help at home.
Well, that's exactly right, because I get that question all the time. Oh, Medicare, what does Medicare cover, right? We have a caller on the line. We're going to take this call and see what they have to say. Hello, caller, are you there? Oh, they're gone. Okay, well, maybe they'll call back. See, everybody wants to talk to you, Paul. Go. Yeah. So they think Medicare is going to cover, and Medicare does not. Okay.
Does not. So when somebody needs help at home, yes, if somebody comes out of the hospital and needs some rehab, they'll go to a rehab, or they'll come home, and Medicare will cover somebody to come in for physical therapy. for things like that. But that's coming in for a certain purpose, maybe for an hour, a day, a week, whatever it might
And
be.
it's not long term.
And it's not long term, and they're not going to help with cooking, cleaning, and helping you bathing and things like that. You really need to purchase long-term care insurance or pay out of pocket for somebody to come and to help take care of someone. And the long-term care insurance has evolved over the years, where when my mom purchased it, I'll say 25 to 30 years ago, she made what a lot of people understand is a payment monthly or yearly. And it's gone up every year depending upon as you get older.
Right.
And unfortunately, fortunately in my mom's case, she lived to be able to use it. But for a lot of people, they spend the money and then they pass away and there's no cash value to it. So you spend it for all these years and it just goes away.
And I think that's one reason why people don't know what to do. Should I buy it? Should I not buy it? Because what if I don't use it? But, then there's the argument, well, you have insurance on your house to protect your house from a fire.
Right.
And you may not have a fire, but you want to have the insurance. And so you kind of don't get that benefit if you don't
Right.
have a fire. So it's a big decision with long-term care, and I know a lot of people in the past have bought it and not been able to use it, and so that's one of the negatives I think that people think about.
Correct. But over the last, I'll say over 20 years, insurance companies realized that people weren't buying it as much. And also insurance companies stopped writing long-term care insurance because people are living longer. So with the pharmaceuticals and people living sicker longer, out to 100 sicker, the insurance companies were losing money.
Yes.
So what they figured is they have to change the type of policies being written. So what the insurance companies said is, okay, we're going to either write an annuity with some type of rider attached to it that you can turn on for long-term care, or you can buy life insurance and have a rider attached to it to add for long-term care.
More attractive option.
Well, absolutely, because there's either cash value in it, there's a death benefit. So if, again, you don't need the care, but you might need the money for other reasons, you can pull it out and use it for other reasons. There's tax advantages with it. And then again, there's a death benefit that if you don't need it, you can leave your legacy with that. So there's a lot of creative ways that you can buy long-term care, not use it or lose it, but kind of bring it on now. At perfect age, 55, 60 years old, 65. A lot of people think, and I've heard, oh, I'm 70, I'm too old to buy long-term care.
Well, that's what they used to say, right? But now it's not always the case.
I tried at the age of 79 to buy my dad long-term care insurance. There is a special type of policy that up to age 80 you can purchase. But there were knockout questions, and I knew that my dad, if you had 3 knockout questions, you couldn't qualify.
Okay.
I knew my dad had 2 of the 3 because of his health. I didn't realize how bad his dementia was, and he couldn't pass the questions. So he was knocked out, and I couldn't get him long-term. But that was up to age 80, 79.
Wow.
So you can purchase it depending on health. Obviously, better younger because we're healthier
Right.
to buy it. But long-term care in my mom's situation that she has been a godsend because with her Social Security that she received from my dad, people don't realize that either, that once my dad passed away, my mom then received my dad's Social Security.
Which was higher.
Which was higher. So hers goes away, so now she gets more money. Plus then with her long-term care, we were able to afford the assisted livings that we've had her in, plus making her money last longer.
Let me ask you a question. When your mom purchased the long-term care policy, was it comprehensive and did it cover pretty much everything? And talk about home health, assisted living, and nursing home, and it may or may not cover all of those things.
Correct. Yeah, she by accident, again, because I think it was a friend of the family that did the right thing and sold her a policy that would cover home care in an assisted living and also in a nursing home. I've come across many policies where somebody either just has home care,
Right.
but they need to go into an assisted living or even a nursing home, and it doesn't cover it. So it's either stay home, but they can't afford to stay home because they need almost 24/7 care. So they paid for this policy for 20 or 25 years, and they can't use it.
And I just want to make one point here because I had a customer one time said, well, I do have long-term care and it's home health. And I said, yes, that's if your wife
Right.
stays at home and you can have help at home.
Right.
Well, he wanted to argue the point that, well, that means that I can have, someone come into an assisted living and it'll pay for that portion of her care in there.
Right.
And he really argued the point and, went back to the insurance company and everything, but he didn't understand that that was something that would be supplemental or additional to
Right.
the care that you're already paying for under your monthly payment to the assisted living
Correct.
for like a private duty, someone to come in and give additional care or additional companionship.
Right.
And so a lot of people are confused on that little technicality, thinking that if they have it, they can use it in a facility, but it doesn't work that way.
Correct. And also, in a lot of the older policies, they're written in there for nursing home care. Well, assisted livings aren't that old.
Right.
So you have these older policies that have popped up and saying nursing home care. There have been insurance attorneys that have fought and won, saying that really the assisted living is what they meant, not really the nursing home aspect of it. So it can go either way. So
Right.
I mean, I say go speak to an attorney that can maybe dig into the policy and see if you can get benefits from it.
Yeah, sometimes when is specifically for skilled nursing facility or nursing home, it may have definitions in there of what constitutes that
Right.
type of living environment.
Right.
And one of them is the fact that someone may have dementia.
Right.
All right. So that became a loophole one time for someone to come into a memory care
Right.
because it said they would pay for this type of care.
Right.
And so, but you have to read the fine print and you have to read between the lines a lot of time too.
Yeah, I mean, and again, part of the planning that I do is somebody's at home, but the home's getting expensive to carry. They're in a homeowners association, they have real estate taxes, they have insurance, and maybe they really are better off going into a community. So suggesting that maybe they, instead of going into an assisted living, go into independent living. Now that's their place of residence, and get their long-term care policy to kick in as independent living. So they get the benefits of being in a community. Not now they have a fixed expense. They don't have to worry about the upkeep of a home, the taxes, the insurance, and everything that goes along with it. They have one fixed bill, and we can still apply either for benefits or have the long-term care policy kick in as them being now as an independent resident. And it's just planning again, speaking with me, working it with the family, get them to understand the options.
Well, that's really creative because if you think about it, like you just said, if someone has been in their home a long time,
Right.
the taxes, the insurance, the upkeep, the maintenance, buying your food, your utilities.
Right.
So technically, you could go into an independent living where all your food is included, your meals are made for you,
Right.
your cleaning's done for you, and all of that could be less money than what you're paying at home, plus the benefit of having social life,
Right.
making new friends, having the stimulation,
Yeah.
having all of this, at your fingertips. And people don't really think about it that way. I mean, it really can be a great option, especially if someone's older.
Yeah, and just on the subject of assisted living and independent living and nursing homes, a lot of people say to me, "Yeah, I'm going to put my mom in a home." And I'm like, you have to explain what you mean. Like, where are you putting her? So at least if they tell me a name, I know, okay, that's an assisted living or that's a nursing home, because people really don't understand the difference between an independent assisted and a nursing home. And what I'm finding also is they don't understand all the options. So where the other day somebody called me, limited amount of money, and I said, well, did you ever hear something called a 6-bed? And now, again, they don't understand what that is. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, in the industry, it's called a 6-bed, where it's a residential home in a residential neighborhood. You would never know that there's seniors living in there. It's licensed, and there's 4, 5, 6 people living in there. And the cost can really be something where you can handle, as opposed to going into one of these bigger facilities. And most of them do take Medicaid, and maybe just between their Social Security and Medicaid can cover the expense.
Yeah.
Now we can protect the home that you're selling, those assets, what's in the bank and really stretch out the money as long as needed. And you can even bring an aide in or do whatever you need to do for mom. Now you have some extra money.
That's right. And those 6 beds, they popped up several years ago, and they've become quite popular.
Yeah, yeah. Some of them are really nice, and it's really an option that people don't even know about.
Yeah. And again, you mentioned in the beginning of the show about appropriate placement. And so, when people are looking at independent, assisted, nursing home, or even a 6-bed or memory care, it has to be the right place for the right person, and it's not one one thing fits everybody, right? And it has to be, so not everybody would be appropriate to be in a 6-bed.
Right.
There might not be enough stimulation for them or enough socialization because there's only 3 or 4 or 5 other people. So this is something that where you could come in and help them by having that expert that handles all of that to really pinpoint where they should go.
Correct. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not the expert on every facility, whether 6-bed or the big places, but there are senior placement agencies.
And geriatric care managers can help with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And the senior placements, it's a free service that they offer. They get paid by the assisted livings as a marketing fee to help. And they're going to go and show you 3, 4, 5, 6 different places,
Right.
of which, you have to touch and feel.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got to touch and feel and
And
smell.
smell.
And smell, right?
Smell, that's a big
one. And the family's got to be comfortable that their loved one will be okay there.
That's right.
So that's an industry within itself that, there's some great people out there that do that I
Some people
recommend.
don't even know that that kind of person exists.
Right.
So let me ask you a question. So if someone does not have long-term care insurance, unlike your mom who helped her to
Right.
live where she's living, how does someone pay for independent living, assisted living, or nursing home? And is it one way they pay or multiple ways they pay? Can you explain how the payer source?
Yeah, I mean, again, if it's not long-term care insurance that somebody has, it's one of 2 options: paying out of pocket, and they're paying from their assets, whether you're turning on income to generate to pay it down, or just cashing in whatever you might have every month to pay it down, or you have government benefits. And the government benefits aspect of it, again, there's VA and then there's Medicaid, and that's really the 2 driving forces to help pay for the assisted living nursing homes or home care.
Yeah, and then people again might say, well, what about Medicare? So we
Right.
want to reiterate that
No
Medicare
Medicare.
does help you when
Right.
you're in an independent assisted living or nursing home, because it does pay for the doctors that
Right.
come and visit you and take care of you, and the doctors will bill Medicare for those
Right,
services.
physical therapy,
Yeah,
things
those
like
types
that.
of things,
Correct.
but not for the actual community or facility itself, and that it's a big
No.
thing. We got to take another quick break, and when we come back, more with Paul Solomon, certified senior advisor. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'm back with my special guest, Paul Solomon. He is a senior advisor, certified senior advisor, and we're talking about all things that were related to seniors, their finances, assisted living, all kinds of benefits, anything that a senior will go through and needs to know. Paul is the expert here today, answering a lot of my questions and giving you all the answers. And he is with Luhu Advisors. It's capital L, all capitals,
Yes.
Luhu, Luhu. What does that mean? Why are you naming your company that?
It's always been difficult. I've had different companies, whether a real estate company, insurance agency, to come up something creative. And I think we were sitting around the dinner table saying, okay, I'm opening up a new company. Here we go again. And I had PHS Advisors at one time, which is my initials, and it did stand for Passionately Helping Seniors. But we figured, all right, let's expand. I needed a name for my real estate company, and I needed a name for my consulting advising company. So we came up with Luhu Realty and Luhu Advisors, and Luhu stands for Let Us Help You.
Let us help you. I love that. That's
You know,
amazing.
so
Yeah.
I have to give credit to my family for that more than me. I can't take all the credit. I liked it, and so
I like it too. Very
Yeah.
creative, but it says a lot. It really puts it out there that you're there to help.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
us because again, it's a team that takes. It's not just me having all the answers, but knowing where to go, and having the right people. Even just a quick 2-second story. Even today, my in-laws who are in their 80s were going to be taken advantage of by an air conditioning repairman. And they totally were trying to be sold a new air conditioning unit when they don't need one. That's one story. My mom was scammed for $4,000. Typical. Oh,
Your
it's
mom
your-
was scammed?
was scammed. It's your grandchild calling. It was my son Zach or my son Brett calling in Germany. They lost their wallet and they need money.
Now we hear this story out there, but it actually happened.
Oh, it happened, and it almost happened 3 times. My mom hung up one time, couldn't hear the second time, and then it actually happened the third time. They said, go to the bank, take out cash. She was embarrassed to call me because my son said, don't call Dad. She went to the bank, took out cash. She then went to Target to get the gift cards. The lady at Target even said to her, are you sure? Because it was a weird $4,000 in cash to go in, and she needed 2
And
cards.
she actually had all that cash
She
to
had
buy
the
gift
card,
cards?
and so there was an elderly, and the lady at Target said, are you sure that you want to do this? Did somebody call you on the phone? No, I know what I'm doing. Went home, called the person back, and gave them the
All the
numbers
numbers.
on the back. And then she called me to say, have you heard from your son, my mom, And I said, he's in bed up in wherever, in Tallahassee, wherever they were. And she said, no, they're away. And I'm like, okay, so you were just scammed. And she was denial. I called the police, but they're like, you have to come in. And I didn't have time. It wasn't probably the right thing or wrong thing to do, but it happened to my parents, and it's out there every day. So it's a true thing that happens. And they tried multiple times to do it, and they caught her in that one day.
That's really.
But
really
at that point, the learning lesson there was, at that point, I said, okay, now I'm taking over your checkbook. Okay, so again, I had to wait, unfortunately, for something to happen.
Was this before or after she went into the independent living?
No, this was before. I mean, they were I'll call them fully functioning, living in their house.
Okay.
So it was over the last, I'll say, 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
My dad was, again, showing the signs of dementia. Things were progressing with him. But
But
my
this
mom
was your mom.
But this was my mom who was writing checks and
so
doing
it's so it shows how vulnerable seniors are.
Correct.
And this actually happened, and I'm so sorry
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
And they're, like you said, embarrassed to question anything, and just get flustered, and so it really can happen.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about what seniors should do, how to plan, talked about long-term care insurance, talked about being, advocates, talked about government benefits a little bit. And now we have a lot of adult children like yourself who are in that sandwich generation. You have children of your own, you have your elderly parents. And so you are a professional and you know what to do and how to plan because you've had to do this for your parents. What about other adult children that are listening and they might think, what should I be doing to prepare for my care if and when I need it, because I may not want my children to have to deal with that. So
Right.
what kind of advice would you give to adult children now to plan for their future?
When I sit with families, and it's usually sitting with the adult children who are the power of attorneys, and I'm sitting with them and explaining, and they see what their parents are going through, I kind of say, and what have you done?
Yeah.
What age are you at where, are you retiring? Are you in that full-blown baby boomer? Are you getting up to the point of retiring and collecting Social Security? And I usually have a pretty good conversation with them. It always leads back to, all right, let's take care of my parents first and then come back to me. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're embarrassed because
They haven't done anything.
They haven't done anything.
Or they don't know what you're talking about.
No idea. They have maybe a financial advisor where their stocks, bonds, mutual funds are, and they think, okay, so I have somebody. But there's so much more to it, even with Social Security. Social Security is a moving target that, everybody's saying, oh, it's going to go away. Well, it's not going to go away. It might just be percentages of, you might receive less than 100%. You might, hit full retirement age and not get 100%, maybe 80%. Or they're going to move full retirement age now where it's 67, they might move it to 68, 69. So it's a moving target for people around my age that are there but not there yet.
Yeah.
And it's very important to understand when to take Social Security. So people, there's a couple of different trains of thought. You're hitting 62 and that's the earliest you could take it, but do you really need it? And then I
Well,
get
some
people
people take it just because they say, well, I'm going to take it now because if they run out of money, I'm going to get all the money I can get. And seriously, people have told me that.
Oh, absolutely. Or, in my family, that people die early, so I want to get it now before it runs out, and or I want to get as much as I can.
Yeah, before I get sick or before
and-
I die.
Yeah, and I get that. All right, but that's not the optimal time to take it. And even I saw it with my own parents where they weren't, they didn't speak to a professional. They took it when they took it. And I see now when I started doing the planning for my parents 10, 12 years ago, that my mom should have taken half of my dad's. People don't realize as a spouse, you can take half of your spouse, which is a bigger breadwinner, especially in the older generation, where my mom lost out about $500-$600 a month. Now take that 30 years.
Wow, that's
Okay,
a lot of money.
that's a lot of money. That that could have changed their life. That could have made their life a lot different now, but there was nobody there to ask that question to.
Yeah, nobody to inform them, nobody to just, let's just sit down and look at this stuff.
Right. So now that I'm really trying to get to the baby boomers and understand, I can help your parents, no problem, and we can protect their assets and we can make it last as long as they're alive. But what are you going to do? Let's start thinking about it. And it doesn't mean that you need another monthly payment for long-term care. How about if we just take your assets and move them in just a different category? All right. So maybe your financial advisor who's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, but either speak to somebody that does insurance. And insurance is a great way to protect your assets, and they can grow maybe even safer, bigger, better than what your financial advisor is, as in
The stocks, which are
Today-
very risky, especially these days,
right
right?
in the last 2 or 3
Yeah.
days, it's been crazy.
I know.
And-
So there's so much to learn, so much to know.
yeah.
So I'm sure people have learned a lot from you today, but I'm sure that they would like to learn more and speak to you. Is there a way they can contact you, Paul?
Yeah, 2 ways. My phone number is area code 954-540-6609. Again, 954-540-6609. Or email me at paulsolomonpa@gmail.com. Again, paulsolomonpa@gmail.com.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, appreciate your knowledge, your expertise, and your time. And thank you all for joining us today, too, on the Caregiver Solution Info Show. Call Paul. He's a great guy, and he'll help you. And if he can't help you, he will send you to someone who can, because that's what he does. He's
Thank
the
you so much.
quarterback, right?
Yep. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, thank you for
Appreciate it.
being here. All right, everybody. Well, have a good week. We'll see you next Tuesday, 6 o'clock p.m. on www.caregiversolutions.info. Take care and good night.